There's something wrong with me. A talk with Unmani.
A very common belief that I think most of us have in some form, and that is that there's something wrong with me, right? And when we are on the spiritual path, we find reasons to believe that there's something wrong with me when I'm not doing spirituality right. I'm not having the right experiences or states or thoughts or feelings. I'm not behaving in the right way compared to what I think other people are experiencing who are more enlightened or awake or spiritual or whatever word we put to it. Or according to a book or a video or some other teacher. And we develop these ideas about what we think is right, maybe even comparing to our own experiences from the past, experiences where we had so-called positive or more spiritual experiences, and we're comparing our present experience with that or with these other experiences, and then of course nothing will fit, nothing will be right, and we do anything to try to confirm this idea that I'm wrong, that there's something wrong with me. So, for example, if we have some strong emotion, well, usually the belief in most spiritual teachings is that that we pick up, perhaps we misinterpret, is that emotions mean that I'm caught up in some kind of belief system that I shouldn't be caught up in. That somehow having an emotion is kind of proof that I'm identified or I'm not there yet, that I'm doing it wrong, that there's something wrong with me. And that if I was doing it right, or if I had achieved the right state, then I wouldn't have any emotions, and that my experience would just be peaceful and beautiful. And so we grasp hold of an emotion or a particular trigger or a reaction that we have as proof, as evidence that I'm wrong. And this just feeds this identity of the one that is wrong, right? That is fundamentally wrong, that one that will never get it, one that is such a mess, so fundamentally broken. And no matter what you do, you keep failing. And feeding this identity seems to be kind of, counterproductive. Why would we do that? Why would we want to feed that identity of something wrong with me? When we can, if we can see it more logically, or from, a little bit more distance, we can see, well, it's painful, right? To believe that there's something wrong with me. But on the other hand, it can be such a comfortable, an uncomfortable comfort zone that we buy into because it is what we know so well. Probably from a very young age, we have believed that there is something wrong with me, that everyone else has got it, or they know how to be in this life, even if we didn't believe in spiritual beliefs when we were younger, but at least we believed that the others around me, they somehow knew better or knew how to live in a better way, or they had the answers, or they're more cool, or whatever we believed. We can we tend to isolate ourselves in this belief of there's something wrong with me. In other words, I'm separate and different and alone, alien, and I'm outside. I don't belong. And I can't belong because there's something wrong with me. And this is a very common belief, especially for spiritual seekers. I notice. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a belief that I had for a very long time. And I noticed that many spiritual seekers are believing that they don't fit in with others around them, because we're different, we're wrong, and we need to try to become right again. And this is a hard one to let go of, this identity of being wrong or different. Because without that, without believing that I am fundamentally wrong, then who am I? Then I really don't know who I am. Then I'm lost. And what if I'm not wrong? What if I'm just as I am? Right? What if I'm enough just as I am? What if the fact that I experience this emotion or have a reaction or some kind of human condition, whatever it is, what if that doesn't mean anything about me? What if it doesn't mean anything about who I am? In other words, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or right. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I'm more or less spiritual. It's just an experience happening now for no one, just happening in life itself, awareness itself, that knows it, that sees it. And from that, there is no right or wrong. There is no separation between me and the others around me or the world around me. I'm not different or right or wrong. I'm just simply an expression of life itself, unique in this own way, however this one is showing up right now. And inevitably, that will be different to others at different times, maybe some similarities, but there is no need to be like others around us. This comparing only gets us in trouble. It feeds this idea of separation, comparing myself with the other. It feeds this idea that the other is a separate me, a separate you out there, and I'm a separate me in here. And then we compare with what we think is out there or what we think is in here. And it's always going to cause trouble. And it's always going to cause pain and suffering because it builds this wall of separation and this idea that I am fundamentally wrong. And if we can see through this one, if we can see the nature of this one, that it is just simply a thought, an old story that seems to create some kind of identity to hold on to, some kind of reference point, someone to be in nothing. And if we're willing to see and to see that I'm not really that belief, then maybe we have to face the discomfort that might be underneath that, the fear of not knowing who I am, the fear perhaps that comes up in this free falling of not knowing anything, not being anyone. And there's also this freedom in that, not needing to be anyone, not even needing to be right. I'm never going to be right, just like I'm never going to be wrong. These are only concepts that the thoughts come up with to create separation. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we need to see what it is. We need to see how it works. This is the game of thought, the game as if there is separation. So if you notice that there is a thought saying, I'm wrong or I'm right, just be curious and have a look. Who is that thought referring to? Who is wrong? Who is right? And if you see that there's no one here at all, then, okay, we can playfully play with these thoughts, but we know that they are never actually referring to anyone. They never actually mean that I'm wrong, or in fact, that I'm anyone at all.